You're welcome on in, and thanks for joining me in this latest bite-sized boxing broadcast, where I will do my very best to tease out the little parts of boxing that most of the others are trying to ignore. Two topics that have stunk up the boxing world in the last 3 to 4 months, and have been almost used in tandem by the same promoter. Conor Benn's failed drug test, or adverse finding, and the sleight of hand, the distraction that has been used and thrown in almost on key by Edward of Hearn every time his bum squelched around the Conor Benn subject, is the Katie Taylor Croke Park homecoming. And not to be a brash know-it-all or told you so sort, around the time of that last Serrano fight, I think it was last May or so, I did point out and highlight that in this climate and the current climate and for the foreseeable that it's just not doable. Nor is it doable from a standing start that boxing finds itself in right now at the dawn of 2023, last in the line of sports such as golf, tennis and at times even walking football. Certainly when it comes to acknowledgement and recognition and most importantly, government funding. But who is to blame, you might ask? Come with me and we'll have a look. Not to rehash old topics, but we've been told time and time again that the reasons for boxing's exodus and bad press, insurance levies and costs, running costs, the recent feud and factions and the threat, venue costs, economic downturn, as if we ever came out of it, energy crisis, and most recently Brexit. And not to sound like what Cheryl McCullough would call a curmudgeon, at times you're almost expecting the mythical curse that has so-called and allegedly stopped Mayo from winning Sam Maguire to be used as an excuse. My old nan had a saying for almost every situation, and in this case,
where there's a will, there's a way,
springs to mind. Eddie Hearn told us on January 1st or thereabouts that AJ's new team and next opponent would be announced the next day. 4 weeks on, nothing. Eddie Hearn told us many times since Benn's disgraced adverse drug finding, the truth is coming. The apology shall be greater than the accusation. The announcement in the coming days. Still nothing. Eddie Hearn has told us many times since the Serrano fight. Katie Taylor shall fight in Croke Park. She's entitled to it. Gareth A. Davies has told us that no matter who Katie fights, no matter who is in the farther corner, she shall sell 80,000 tickets just like that.
What a plonker.
So you take all of the above into account when you make up your mind on how trusting and how reliable this individual is, at least on this subject. I was lucky enough to be on this island and at a time what I believe was the best era for professional boxing. Whether it was a Brian Peters Promotions, Highland Promotions, Cyclone, Boxing Ireland, Pat McGee, Ginley Promotions, Dunlop, Gary Hyde, WH Promotions, you name it. We saw the Highland brothers all win Irish and European titles. The National Stadium, City West Hotel, the National Basketball Arena Tala or University Limerick. Gary Hyde brought Big Bang Willie Casey versus Rigo to the City West Hotel. Andy Lee, Andy Murray, Matt Macklin, Paulie Hyland, and I daren't forget my great pal Eamon King Kane as he defended his IBF World Middleweight ranking and an eliminator position against his English counterpart Lewis Taylor in Lavey, County Derry. So what's my point? Boxing has never been everybody's cup of tea, and for many it never will be. Many see it as being brutal and barbaric and horrendous and horrific. It's okay. We get it. And while it might not be for you, it is important to know that Irish influence on boxing around the world goes way too deep to be disregarded, scorned, shut down or put aside by the great unwashed. Irish influx or emigrants to Boston in the 1800s saw names like Paddy Ryan and J.L. Sullivan not just put boxing on the map, ultimately carried it across the divide with the adoption and implementation of the Marquess of Queensberry rules, without which boxing could not now be watched on Sky Sports, BT or DAZN. It couldn't be a household sport broadcast around the world. I'm asking you to try not just think of the bad when you hear boxing mentioned. If you can, allow names like Jimmy McLarnin, Jack Dempsey, Tom Sharkey and Rinty Monaghan fill your thoughts. Fellas who boxed not just for the love of the sport, but boxed to feed and clothe themselves and their family, and in doing so, lifted the hearts and spirits of Irish men and women who had it a whole lot tougher than anything we can imagine today. or on into the 80s and 90s when names like Macaulay, McGuigan, McCullough and Collins gave this island a 12 rounds, 36-minute break from atrocities that we now shake our heads at in the Middle East or Ukraine. Yeah, boxing may not be for you, and that's cool, but it's also vital to acknowledge and recognise the big role that it plays in daily life. It's more important now than ever, as we see so many youths around the world in different communities and different demographics choosing to pick up a knife or a weapon rather than self-defence and unarmed combat. Having said all that, I'm 100% honest and real enough to acknowledge that boxing has a lot of work to do. And again, as I reiterate, boxing is not a body or a person with 2 arms, 2 legs and a mouth to defend itself. It is a movement. It is a community. And you would be very surprised how small and tight that community really is. It's vital that boxing must help itself from now on. It cannot be seen anymore as that scruffy cousin of the sporting world who visits once a month and stinks the place up with cap in hand.
Please, sir, I want some more.
Begging. In Katie Taylor, we have a leader, an icon, a generational figure who goes so much deeper and is so much more than boxing. Add to that mix fellas like Dennis Hogan, Spike O'Sullivan, and we have 3 figures who can lead a boxing renaissance, the evolution. No luggage, no stigma, or no smell around them. Each of them carving their own career the hard way, the long way, the right way. And in the wings, we have an unrivaled talent pool, the likes of which we haven't seen before on this island. All of them waiting, wanting their chance. But it is important, it's vitally important for this to be done properly. We're not going to get another chance to rebirth boxing on this island. Many people wish and want for the sport to be gone. Now we gotta stand up. Katie Taylor could well do a Eubank-like tour, fights every 4 to 6 months in Galway, Cork, Derry, and maybe ending up in that grand finale at Croke Park. Boxers like Gary Cully, Pierce O'Leary, Kevin Ajarko, Conor Coyle, Paddy Donovan, Joe Ward all have a vital role to play between them. And know this, acknowledge this, not all boxers blossom at the same time. They don't all come at the same time. Their careers don't all come to fruition at the same time. Some take an awful lot longer. Some come through it the hard way. Some come through it in ways that you would never imagine. Not everybody has a talent of an Ella Thompson, an Ava Henry or an Esther Lamb. We've got fellas like Graham McCormack, Ryan O'Rourke, Thomas Carty, Kevin Cronin, Eddie Tracy, Larry Fryers, Jamie Morrissey. All of those dedicate every day of their life to the sport and should be brought in whatever role it sees fit to maybe set up what could be seen as a Band-Aid style boxing movement here on this island, generating, encouraging and inspiring another generation and generations to come with a platform that has never been there before. And if I could do anything, if I could ask anything, if I could plead, coming from a boxing fan's heart, which is only ever claimed to be, I would ask and plead with the IABA, the BUI, any and all promoters to try and work in tandem. To pick up that proud, revered, but badly faded fighting Irish moniker. To dust it off and put a bright, shiny new glossy sparkle that reminds the world exactly how good Irish boxing is. Because
where there's a will, and there is a fucking will, there's a way.